Wednesday. And what a Wednesday it was. Sophie Dorset had been told that the first 17 years of her life were all a lie, and she was a human guinea pig, being recorded to give an invading race a full understanding of the human species. The previous day had involved an attempt on her life by an alien posing as her new history teacher, before she destroyed the brain of the N.W.I.P, the robot who she had unknowingly dated for 5 years as part of the experiment.
I've got to find her. Who is this Amy Hunt woman? She's on my friend list, but she's given no clue as to who she is. Mr. Leoney worked for her, and that's all I know.
Soph, are you okay?
Yes, Mum. Thanks.
I've had a letter home about you.
For one horrid moment, Sophie leaped out of her skin, before realising there couldn't be any evidence that she had smashed the Trav-15, or she'd have been killed in the night. Only an idiot would send a letter to tell someone that they were on the hit list, wouldn't they?
Your child has been selected to attend an open day at the University of Buryford. Do you think they know it was me?
I can't sign it. They know my handwriting from my research on the experiment. You're not going.
As eager as Sophie had always been to please her mother, this was one time where her own instincts disagreed with her emotions. If she didn't go, she would be given a second glance. All it would take was a second glance to be noticed. Contrariwise, if she did go, it might be a trap, but that would only bring her closer to stopping the invasion.
I'm gonna go. I can't save anybody by hiding, but I might through fighting.
You're not listening. It's too dangerous.
I didn't say I would.
You were thinking it.
You could have told me you could read minds.
I'm your mother. Of course I can read your mind.
Oh, I thought you meant your whole species could.
No. And I didn't bring you up to generalise like that.
Sorry.
9 o'clock, and the first lesson began. Science, followed by IT. Science proved a far better day opener than history the 2 days before, and she was eager to know how they would explain the replacement of Mr. Leoney, since he was found sprawled out of sight between 2 tables, politely ignored by the students for half an hour until Mrs. Milford tripped over him. In fact, Sophie Dorset would have gone so far as to say that science had been the most enjoyable introduction to any of her lessons that year. Mr. Beath was a stocky man with short black hair and a low, rumbly voice that sounded to Sophie like a teddy bear chuckling, if such a thing existed. Perhaps that would be next after Aliens. After 2 hours of watching a fan film about Copernicus, with himself rather sweetly taking on the lead role, Sophie's class went for their first break.
Talk to him, Soph. He thinks you're mad, but you need to explain what yesterday was about.
Hey, Sophie, you okay?
Oh, hey. I was just going to talk about yesterday.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I'm sorry I left you.
That's okay. You had no reason to believe me anyway. You idiot. If you had stayed with me, Mr. Leoney might not have walked in. He wouldn't have tried to kill me.
Can I ask you something?
What?
Did you kill the teacher?
Oh dear.
IT came next on the timetable. Mrs. Milford seemed nice, but the classroom was the scene of yesterday's events. Each second spent in there was a horrible reminder of how little she knew. Was she right to stop them? After all, they had been fighting for survival. Was it really her fault that Mr. Leoney had killed himself? And if she was discovered, would they make her pay for a new photocopier before killing her?
Miss, can I work in another IT room?
Why?
I don't feel comfortable in this room, knowing one of our teachers died in here. Good save, Sophie. Remember not to get suspected.
No, you can work in here.
Oh, great. Thanks. Everywhere I look at, I just see what happened yesterday. I feel uncomfortable in here, like the room knows what I did. Why can't she see that? Mr. Leoney couldn't have worked on the device in here without Mrs. Milford knowing. So is she one of them too?
Miss, I need to annotate a page of my English anthology. Can I copy it?
Yes, if you've done the work I set you.
Yeah.
Malcolm lifted the lid of the photocopier.
Oh.
The cracked surface was still covered in parts of the Trav-15's brain segment.
Leave that alone. Step away from there, now.
Okay.
Did you touch anything? Did you take any pieces?
No, miss.
Good.
Mrs. Milford was a formidable woman, relatively tall and slim, with angular spectacles perched on an angular nose and an angular everything else to go with them. Sophie was suddenly rather nervous. Was the component really as irreparably damaged as she had gauged before? After all, it currently looked like a pocket watch that had taken a morning stroll in a meat grinder. This reminded her that all the information they needed had not been destroyed. It was all in her mind. Her mother had told her that she was too full of recording equipment to let free. Perhaps there was a component just like the Trav-15's in her brain too. It seemed like the day would never end. Finally the time came, and Sophie's mother was placed at once in the uncomfortable position of answering some questions.
I don't know who this Amy Hunt is, Soph. We all changed our names along with our outer forms. The group commander who set up the experiment was male, and he has been in charge since, to my knowledge. I have no records of a female authority figure being sent to Earth.
But she's the one who wants me dead.
She's not one of us, that's all I know.
Mrs. Milford is one of them, I'm sure. The brain component I told you about? Do I have one of them inside me too?
No, your cerebral cortex had to remain fully functional, or the experiment would go to waste. No, but you do have other, more practically sized components focused near areas of growth. We needed to house the social equipment outside of your body. It's just the physical data that needed to be implanted.
It is never easy being told that anything you held dear was a lie. These feelings were seldom stronger than in the sad case of Sophie Dorset right now. Whether it had been the result of being an experiment all her life, or simply that she had a natural fighting spirit, Sophie was strong enough to hold back the fear that so invitingly told her to fall into despair, and she was determined to fight. Determined to live.
Was Mr. Leonie's component the only piece? It was oddly shaped, and looked more like just a part.
How large was it?
Quite big. About the size of a fist.
Then there are two more hidden.
What if I can't find them both? I have the school trip tomorrow. Perhaps they're taking the main suspects away while they finish repairing them.
I think it solely depends on where your Mrs. Milford will be.
She's coming with us.
Then stay as near to her as you can.
Sophie suddenly realised how tired she was. Up the stairs into her room she went. It was imperative that she had enough sleep for tomorrow, especially if there was to be a transaction of any of the Trav-15's pieces between Mrs. Milford and another teacher in the university.
Oh, that's where I left my phone. When did I last check anything on that? I just haven't felt like using it since Mum came all weird on me. Still no interesting texts. Just junk mail. God almighty, that's a lot of notifications. Travis Mackenzie is still trying to make me feel bad. Well, talking to an anonymous girl who is obviously me. For all I know, it's just one of them laying bait. Ignore the guilt, Soph. If you reply, you'll give yourself away. Oh, Dominica replied.
Please do not talk anymore. If you do, I will have to report where you are. If they know we are still in contact, Amy Hunt will kill us both.
Oh God.
Sophie deleted the messages with a hand that was numb with terror. If she had been as disciplined as Mr. Leonie or Mrs. Milford, Sophie would have died on the first day. Everything seemed to shift as the realisation fully settled in that she could be given away not just by her actions, but by what people already knew.
All the blind eyes being turned on me. Gotta shut this account down, Soph.
Keep in line now. Follow Mr. Beath.
The shapeless entanglement of arms and legs that presumably had once been a set of individual students made its way across the busy streets. The only time any one person was fully visible was when an aimless shove threw someone out of the bundle. These were herded quickly back into the procession by Mrs. Milford. 3 members of staff were attending the trip. Mr. Beath, the science teacher, Mrs. Milford, the head of the IT department, and Mr. Anston, the art teacher, perhaps the youngest member of staff in the entire school. If Sophie had been in a position to think about such things, she would have perhaps found him rather attractive.
Malcolm, I keep telling you, it's true.
Fine, if you can prove it, I'll believe you.
I can't prove it. That's why the whole trust thing is the key term here.
Yeah, I trust you.
You don't mean that.
Try and look at this my way. You make me wait outside the classroom while you break in. After waiting ages, I choose to go onto the field with the others. They ask me if I saw you, and I have to lie. Then Mr. Leone goes in to find you and ends up looking like a pile of bones when the fire alarm ends.
I know, and I don't know what caused the fire, or why Mr. Leone killed himself. But he was working for a woman who wants me dead. Now the experiment I told you about is over. How am I supposed to prove that?
Who is the woman?
I only know her name. It's Amy.
Malcolm Hunt, stay in line.
Hunt? Malcolm Hunt?
We don't want to lose you, Malcolm. Your mother is a formidable woman, and we wouldn't want to have to tell her that we've lost her son now, would we?